Good. All right. So my name's Trey Honeycutt, Family First Life, Coast to Coast. I was recruited into the business by Andrew Taylor back in 2014. So my goal in the next 30 minutes or so is to really give you clarity and confidence as it pertains to building the business. I would imagine if you're on this call, it's because your goal is to build a team, is to have an agency, to have passive income, to have a business. When I started in the business, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. When I started the business, my goal was just to sell insurance. I didn't have any interest in building a team. When you talk to people from back then, a lot of them will say that the biggest mistake that they made was they didn't start building a team sooner. And so I could definitely echo that sentiment. It was the same with me. My biggest regret in the beginning was not building a team sooner. Some of the fears that I had um, were that I didn't sell enough for people to listen to me. There weren't enough leads for everybody else. How can I lead somebody when I wasn't issuing $145,000 a month by myself? Uh, all the different things and roadblocks that I'm sure many of you have. So my goal in the next 30 minutes is to help you remove that from the equation. Like everybody on this call should leave 30 minutes from now, and whatever struggle it is that was holding you back before, my goal is for that to like be gone for you. So I was going through my notes, and I'll start it off with this because this was actually really powerful. So I'm in the office. I'm looking for a notebook because I'm like, I'm going to write down some stuff that I'm going to say. And I found this notebook, and it had all this loose paper in this notebook, and it was back from 2017. And I remember this training clearly because Andrew showed up to it. He went up to the podium and he had about 50 questions. And I wasn't able to write them all down, but his whole training was based on questions. And he said this, he said, this business a lot of times comes down to the questions you're asking yourself. Like, what are you saying to yourself? You know, most people are sitting around talking about all the reasons why they can't do it, or all the obstacles they have, or all the challenges they have, or the way they were raised, or their past, or whatever it is that's preventing them from moving forward. And Andrew said, what you have to start doing is start asking yourself the right questions. So I wrote down a litany of these questions that he rattled off that day in 2017. And I'm just going to read these to you because I think it's a good framework to go by as we go through this training. The first question he said is, do I talk about doing things more or do I just do it? Am I babying the agents that I'm hiring? Would I want a company the size of FFL? If not, why not? What do I need to do to believe in myself? Can you put out too much positive content? I'll answer that one. No, you can't. Do I take advantage of the summer sales conferences? We have Ignite coming up June 2nd. This was 2017. These were the questions. If you wanted to build a big business in 2017, these are the questions you would have asked yourself. Do the people that I hire believe they can do it? Does anyone take advantage? Does everyone take advantage of the business development meetings? Do I have a direct line of communication with everyone? How much money do I reinvest in my business? How many people have I hired that are currently recruiting? How many times do I post on social media a week? How many people have I hired that also post on social media? Do I need a staff? Would one policy a week pay for a staff? How many people do we have confirmed for the next big event? Does the team write the product that pays us the most? How many people have I hired that are buying leads every week? How many agents buy final expense leads? How many new writers do we have every month? When will I hit VP? How many agents are dialing every week? We can change that now to every day. Are you leveraging everything? How often do I gossip instead of just delivering good news? And do I play team? So these questions in themselves, If you really wrote that down and just answered those, it would tell you everything you need to know about building the business. But the first thing that I want to share with you guys is um, we got to get really good at sharing good news. The problem that people have when they go to build this business is a lot of people can build a business with 20 to 30 agents. That's common. That's normal. You could do that out of sheer grit. You could just do that out of sheer willpower. You could do that all on your own, being completely people creating codependency in your agency. But what you need to ask yourself is my team people dependent or is my team system dependent? That's what I started everything out with. Um, the problem most people have when it comes to recruiting is they aren't even trying to. And why is that? What are some reasons? You guys put some reasons in the chat why you don't think people actually are recruiting, just to see what y'all are thinking. Let's see. They don't think they can. They fear rejection. They haven't seen the results yet. Confidence, fear, awkward, chargebacks, fear of failure. You don't have the basics down. Comparison, not confident, rejections, drill, and practice. Okay, yeah, all that stuff is all right. You guys can stop now because it's too many. All right. Um, but here's the thing. The most the best thing you can do in this business to recruit is to sell. So if you aren't selling, now let me put a caveat on that. Most people think it means you have to sell $30,000 a week. You don't. You just have to consistently sell. That should be your goal. Do you sell every week? And most people, they think they have to know everything before they can hire somebody. And what I learned early on is the best place to be in the business is when you actually don't know anything. It's actually harder for the Hall of Fame agency person to recruit than it is for you to recruit because people expect more from us. When you're brand new, nobody expects nothing. And a lot of times what's happening is we're getting really jaded over the amounts. That's what happens with a lot of folks. They get so jaded over the amounts. Like we have a real gift to offer people. You know, we see leaderboards and people issuing 40, 50, $60,000 a month, $20,000 a month. And that jades us because before you got in this business, that was completely, utterly unbelievable, life-changing income that you would go through a brick wall to get. And the people that you know, like most of the hustlers you know, are driving Uber on, on nights and weekends to make an extra $500. At some point, the understanding that this is the greatest gift that you could give somebody, like really, like this really does change people's lives. If you've deposited in your bank account, there's 113 people on here. If you've deposited in a month from this insurance business in your bank account over $10,000, put a one in the chat. 6, 7, 10, a lot. There's a lot of y'all. Ronell, good job, Ronell. That was new. Dennis is new. Okay. So did it change your life? Did it help you? Did it do something that you couldn't do any other way? And the answer to that is of course it did. It's absolutely amazing. So what I want you to do, the first thing you have to do to build a big business is not forget what it's like to be brand new and how much it changed your life when you were able to go out and deposit that type of money in your account. And now the next step I want you to do is you got to get loud about it. Now, I was talking to an agent last week and they said, Trey, I don't want to be loud about it. Like, I don't want to tell my friends. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. And I just told them, I go, listen, if that's really the case, just say, listen, friend, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. I almost didn't call you because I didn't want you to think I was bragging about this. But with this insurance thing, I made $10,000 last month, and I failed miserably. I didn't even do that good. And I'd feel guilty if I didn't share it with you because I think you'd be really good at it. Or whatever it is you want to say. The thing I learned is the answer to this in recruiting is not saying the wrong thing. People aren't failing because they're saying the wrong thing. People are are failing because they're not saying anything. They're just not saying anything. You cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. And for those of you who are afraid that you have to know it all to start, or you have to be really good, or you have to have the greatest results, I'm 100% convinced that Grady Polson would be Grady Polson regardless of who recruited him. You might just turn over a rock and find a diamond. So why wait? And what I learned early on is positive gossip. That's what drives the business. Positive gossip. Just sharing good news with people. I got better at telling other people's stories than telling my own story. Now, if you sell a lot, it's perfectly okay for you to share your results with people. And if you feel like that's bragging, just simply say something like, I'm not saying that to impress you, Christina. It's just to impress upon you how powerful the system and the training is here. See, being system dependent in this business is about pointing to the system and the training. It's not about pointing to me. Most people do this: look at me, look at me, look at me, and they get 10, 20 little hens, and everybody's dependent on them. And then half the hens quit, and then they get 10 more, and they just huddle them like this. Like, here's my hens. They're doing it my way. They're saying it my way. They do my training. They follow my script. They're on my stuff. They show up when I talk. These are my hens. And then it never moves away from them. But if you want a business to move away from you, you have to be able to point to the FFL system. And what the FFL system is base shop builders call, simple retirement solutions, your team call, and I would recommend everybody, if you have not done this, the Millionaire Maker calls with Sean Mike on Fridays. It's $9.95 a month. Y'all should join those and be on there every week. Who on here gets on the Friday call with Sean Mike? Put a one. Okay, well, that's not enough. Is that is that valuable? Say yes if you feel like it's a valuable. It's valuable. Um, so that's the FFL system. The FFL system is get on Zoom, dial with your team, unmute, get around the fire. You know what the FFL system was in 2017? Here's what it was. We dialed on Thursdays for Friday and Saturday. We dialed on Mondays for Tuesday, Wednesday appointments. If you were new and you were local, then you would come on Monday and Thursday to our office. And the way we trained you is we would dial in front of you while we set our appointments. And then we would go, the goal was to book 15 appointments for Tuesday and Wednesday and 15 appointments for Thursday and Friday. And if you were brand new, like if you got started, Sheila, back in 2017 or whatever, and you were brand new, we would be like, hey, don't worry about it. You don't need to know everything. Don't confuse yourself. There's too much to know about the products. You're not going to learn it all. Just go to Bob's house and call us when you get there. And that was the system. And FFL, just so you know, that worked. The first 2 months of this year, FFL has issued over $200 million in premium. If you look at our quote unquote competition, there is not another IMO in this industry that'll issue 100 million for the year. We did 200 million in 2 months. So that's what the philosophy was. The philosophy was you would learn by doing it, you'd get better by doing it again. And we're not going to overcomplicate it by trying to overtrain you. We're just going to get you out in the field and you learn as you go. And once you run your first 100 appointments, as we used to tell people, you'll be an expert. You'll see everything there is to see. Now, here's how it is today. And you tell me if it's any different. You get started, we say get on Zoom, get some leads, get on Zoom, listen to people dial. They listen to people dial. Here's the script, they see it. So they dial with us on Zoom. And then when they get appointments, we say unmute. And the reason why we say unmute is because if you unmute and you have a problem with Mary or you have a question, you know what product, you can mute Mary and we'll be like, Americo, Eagle Select. And then you know what to write. It's the same thing as it always was. The only difference is you aren't driving 1,000 miles a week to get to your appointments. So the system is the same as the system has always been. It's just how much time are you putting into it? For those of you who, does that make sense? That makes sense, right? What this comes down to more than anything is just understanding what you have to give up in order to get to where you want to go. Like to recruit and build a big business, you just have to do it every day. Could everybody on here have a couple conversations a day with people who aren't in FFL to talk to them about FFL? Everybody could do that. It doesn't take forever to do it. The compound effect of doing that consistently will yield you dramatic results. And the big question a lot of people have is, well, where do I get the people from? Well, if you look at any leaderboard in the company, you will see that the majority of people on that leaderboard was somebody's friend in the business. That's how they got there. That's typically how it works. Why? Why is it that way? Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And trust is the biggest part. If you're recruiting a bunch of strangers that you don't have a relationship with, and you say, hey, you need to spend $1,000 on leads tomorrow, they think you're ripping them off. They don't trust you. That's the problem. They don't trust you. When you recruit your cousin and you're doing the business and you're on Zoom and you're making sales, you made a couple sales this week, and your cousin's like, hey, are you buying leads? And you're like, yeah, I'm buying leads. You should too. Guess what they do? They buy leads. And they'll buy, if you buy leads every week, they'll buy leads every week. Why? Because they trust you. That's what the whole thing's about. So warm market is by far the best place to get people. Now, the only reason to recruit people cold market, that's people you don't know or people you don't have a strong relationship with, is to help them recruit people from their warm market. That's the only reason why I would do it. The only reason why I would recruit a stranger is because they know people I don't know, and I help them recruit those ones. That's always been the philosophy. The thing I wrote this down, I say this a lot, but it was interesting that it was in my notebook from however many years ago. I go, the people change, the places change, the market changes, but the story is always the same. So there's nothing new under the sun. This is exactly the way it's always been. The people change, the places change, the way we reach the people changes, the marketing changes, but the story is always the same. And what's the story? I was in a low place in my life. I met Andrew Taylor. He believed more in me than I believed in myself. I took action. I didn't know it all the whole time. I was confused. I was scared, but I didn't give up. And lo and behold, over time, I was successful at it. That's the story for everybody. That's how it works. And I think I think what I'm trying to say is, as far as the recruiting goes, warm market is what it's about. The only reason to do cold market is so that you can help people recruit their warm market. And then consistency wins. Like that's pretty much the whole deal. So let me give you an idea what this would look like. I always share this, but if you really internalize what I'm trying to tell you and you do this, it'll always work. It works 100% of the time. It's never not worked. It'll work 30 years from now. It worked 30 years ago. Straight up. If you make a habit of taking two people a day from not knowing about FFL to knowing about FFL, and you do that 5 days a week, that's 10 a week. You do that 50 weeks out of the year. I even give you a 2-week vacation, or I factor in the fact that you're probably going to be inconsistent, and that's okay. Everybody's inconsistent at some point. That would be 2 people a day, 10 a week. That's 500 people a year that you personally get to watch a video. And at this point, honestly, if you just have a conversation with them, now I know that's not what I normally would say. I normally say, hey, use a video, invite them to something, use your upline, tell a story. And you just have a conversation with 500 people over the course of the next year. And you talk about the fact that we have a system, people are having success, and understand how much more successful people are here than anywhere else. We just saw a major company in our industry get all excited over the fact that they had one producer last year write $509,000. Major company. They had one. Last year, we had over 1,000 people personally issue $200,000 at FFL. There's not a company that has 50 of those. So when you understand like how much better we are, really, truly, then what are the odds of 500 people learning about high comp, renewals, the bonus structure, the fact that you can make passive income by building a team, the structure, the system, the success that's already been laid. Like when people hear about those things, what are the odds out of 500 that 50 don't raise their hand and say, yeah, that sounds good. How do I get licensed? Or yeah, if I could get higher comp working with you, why wouldn't I? Or yeah, I'm sick of being here, being the number one person, but there's no other place for me to go. I can't go any higher. Of course, I want to work with you. If you just did that 500 times, you'd find 50. And out of those 50, what are the odds that five of them couldn't figure out a way to go out and help 20 families a month? Even if you were terrible, even if you were the worst teacher, if all you ever did was say, hey, here's some YouTube videos, watch those, call me when you have questions. Now, I'm not saying that you should just do that as support. You should do more than that. You should pull out the stops in support of other people's efforts. And I'll explain what that is here in a second. But what are the odds that five people out of those 50 that raise their hand and say, yeah, 10%, and then 10% of that they could go out and help 20 families a month? That would be $100,000 of premium a month. If you only made a 10% override, that's $10,000 a month. Okay? If you made $10,000 a month, how much money would you have to have in the bank in order to make $10,000 a month passively? Just as a comparison. Well, you would need $2.4 million after taxes in the bank at 5% interest a year to make $10,000 a month. If you could get 10% interest, you would need $1.2 million after taxes. What do you think is easier? Saving up $1.2 million after taxes and getting 10% interest, or finding five people over the course of the year that write $20,000? How do you do it? By taking two people a day. If you're an overachiever, do five. If you're Dave Witcher, do 27. But the point is, it's every single day. Just like you dial every day, just like you call carriers every day to get updates on your pending business, just like all the stuff you do every day. Like you brush your teeth every day and you comb your hair every day. Hopefully you do those things and do those things every day. If you're just consistent about it, it's a probability. It's not a possibility. It has to eventually work because you don't need a ton of people. And if you do it long enough, here's the secret sauce. People will do what you did. And as long as people can do what you did, then it'll move away from you because it's not people dependent, it's system dependent. But if you hoard your hens, you get them all corralled, they got to do it your way and say it your way and buy the leads you buy and do this and only your training. And if you just do that, like it'll never work. You'll get 20 people, you might write a lot of business, those 20 will quit, you get 20 more, and you get stuck. But when you leverage what we have here at FFL and you get good at telling other people's stories and you get good at spreading good news, Christianity is the greatest movement the world's ever known. How'd it happen? So people spread some good news. That is the greatest example of what it is I'm trying to say. Did they always have to say the right thing? No, they just had to say something. Right? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put a one. So I know that y'all are tracking with me. Now, what's interesting is you get those five people and they go out and they issue 20,000 a month over the course of the year. That next year they'll do what you did, they'll find their five. And now, instead of five people writing 20, you'll have 30 people writing 20. So now that's $600,000 a month in premium. If you got 10% of that, that's 60 grand a month. What if that took you 4 years? You know, what if you're really bad at it, took you 5? Would it still be worth it? Of course it would. Is it going to happen if you do nothing or if you wait? No, it doesn't happen if you wait. It only happens, you got to start it. That's pretty much it. You know, you have to do it every single day. And so some of the conversations this week for me, because I put 3 people in contracting this week personally. And a lot of that came from social media. So I'm going to share with y'all what that looked like. So on a daily basis, you guys should be posting to social media something. Like social media is about being social. Just be social. Like just use it. Use your story, make posts, comment on people's stuff, like it, heart it, smiley face, amen, muscle arm, whatever. Right? Be social. Say nice things. Share good news. When good news happens on the team, if you're brand new, if Marie is brand new. That's I don't know if Marie is, but it's the first name I saw. Marie is brand new, and she doesn't have a lot of results to show in the business yet. She made one or two sales, but the person that recruited Marie talks about another agent on the team that made five sales. Then Marie should share that and say, "Look, the team's growing. We are killing it. We are doing great." It doesn't mean I. You have to replace I with we. You have to replace me with us. Not I'll go do it. It's let's go do it. Not I'm winning, but we're winning. That way you can leverage what other people are doing. If you get good at telling other people's stories, it doesn't really matter how good or bad you are at it in the beginning, especially. Now, if you're here for 4 years and you never made a sale, that's going to hurt you. Like you can't do that for 4 years. But when you're new, if Clint shared a post and he said Mary wrote $8,000 in premium this week, and I share that, and then one of my friends on my story saw it, and they said something, I would DM my friend and I would say, "Did you see that post about Mary? That's incredible. I'm doing the insurance thing too. I'm fired up." And then he's like, my friend's like, "Well, how are you doing?" "Well, I suck at it. I only made $1,000 on Saturday, and most everybody said no, but I'm going to figure it out." You see, like that's wildly effective. Do y'all see? Does that make sense what I said? Y'all see what I did? You just got to get good at sharing it. And so that's what I did. I would share on my story. I would share on my Facebook, on my Instagram. I would post. I see who looks at it. I start conversations. I make friends. I make friends with their friends. Like if they're in the insurance business, or if they're selling solar, or if they're selling pest control, or they're selling roofs in Oklahoma during tornado season, or whatever it is, I'm making friends with their friends. I'm following them. I'm liking their stuff. They're seeing my story. They comment. They see it. They watch it. I'm social. And then it's just simple engagement. Like, "Hey, I see you sell solar. You're probably really great at it." Question mark. If you take any statement and you end it with a question mark, people feel like they have to say something. So you're probably really great at it. Question mark. Yep, I kill it. Dude, that's awesome. If I lived in Oklahoma, I'd buy a roof from you if my roof got blown off too. Like I'm just making friends. Like it's simple stuff. And then as they engage, then I engage them. I shared with a few people this girl Melissa. She was with another company. This just happened on Saturday. Um, she's with another company. They sell mostly IULs with no leads. I said, "How long you worked with them?" She said, "I worked with them this long." I go, "You must love it." She goes, "It's amazing." I go, "Well, good for you. You're in the right industry." Then she asked me some question, and I said, "That's a lot to answer by text. You should call me." She called me. I never rained on her parade. I said, "Listen, I don't want to distract you from what you're doing. You probably, I don't want to make it seem like a winner will win no matter where they are. You're probably going to do great there. But this is why we're different. And I don't have any clue how to do it the way you're doing it because I don't know how to sell to my friends and family. Like, if you wanted me to come sell to your friend, I would have them fill out something online first, and then I'd call them. That's the only way I know how to do it. But the way we do it is, and a lot of people on the team have done this. In fact, the number one producer on the team did this last year, and this is what it looks like. And she goes, "Well, we don't have anything that does final expense." I go, "Well, you should probably get that." And she goes, "Yeah, I should. I could probably sell it to my mom." I go, "I'll send you some contracting." And the comp just happens to be 3 times higher than what she's at right now. So how do you teach that? I don't know how to teach that. But the thing I know how to do is talk to people every day. And if you do it consistently, it'll work out. That's it. That's pretty simple. Now, once you get people in, what's driving the growth of the business right now? A few things. The number one thing that everybody should be focused on in this business is lock-ins. You you cannot just build this on Zoom. That's what I learned. You can't just build it on Zoom because in the end, it's a people business. And people are the people business that like to be around people. So if everybody's just cooped up in their house and then we just get on Zoom, we talk to each other, I mean, that's cool, but it's much better to like go say hi in person and get to know folks, you know? That's how we did it. That's why we used to have a conference. We'd have a conference every quarter, all over the place, all over the country. That's how we did it. And so that's what lock-ins are doing now is we get a bunch of people together in one room, a little bit of training, and then a lot of work. And then people see people making sales, calling the same leads they're calling. So we just had one in Vegas. We wrote almost $300,000 in premium in 2 days. And there were a ton of people there that were in contracting. They didn't have writing numbers yet, but they're there just learning and soaking it all in. And what that does for someone's belief is that it takes it from their head to their heart. They walk out of there 6 foot tall and bulletproof. And they believe if those people could do it, then I can do it. Which, by the way, is your number one recruiting tool. Like I was always convinced when I say that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, I was of the mindset that the more polished and sharper I was, the more it hurt me. Because if I could approach a person that was really sharp, that could go out and really kill this thing, and after their interaction with me, they said, God, if that idiot could do it, I could do it. Like, like, like there's really no better. That's actually the best. That's the person you want. Is the person that like they could do it in spite of you, right? So I don't know, just a tangent on that. Um, but yeah, lock-ins. Lock-ins are highly effective. We do them all over the country. We do them on a regular basis. We do them in offices. We do them in Airbnbs. Find out from your upline when they are. Figure out ones you could go to. And the biggest thing that we have going for us at FFL is we're all Sean Mike's team. That's what it is. Like it's not cliquish. It's not territorial. We all help each other. That's been the culture from the very beginning. That's never changed. It's still the way that it used to be. It's always been that way, always will be that way if we have anything to do with it. And it's not about this team or that team or competing, it's about collaborating. And so best practices always win, and the best always train the rest. And we don't have big egos. You won't see a ton of big egos in the company where they can't get out of the way and let the best train the rest. Right. So you can always believe that as you bring people into the company, they're all going to have a real chance to make it in the business. So going back to those questions that Andrew had asked, um, the 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 main one was you can never put out too much positive content. So what I would have you do is make a goal of sharing positive good news every day. Make a goal of posting on your social media every day. Make a goal of engaging a certain number of people every day, in addition to doing the business. And then commit to getting good at the business. Commit. Like good or bad, live by it or die by it. The problem that a lot of people have is it's easy to make a commitment in the beginning because they're excited, right? But then what happens is the biggest kiss of death in this is when your back's against the wall and you're brand new and you don't have any money and you have to make something happen. Like I know so many people that were like gonna get evicted, you know, like they were about to lose it all. And then they go and they write like 10K because they're about to get evicted. And then they fix their problem. And the fearlessness they had when their back was against the wall, when they were gonna lose it all, when they get a few $1,000s in the bank, they take their foot off the gas because the wolves are no longer at the door and they're not in survival mode anymore. Like they got their head above water, they can breathe, you know. Because what happens in this is you go from crisis to survival, crisis to survival. This is where people like to bounce around: crisis, survival, crisis, survival. And they get to survival mode, they get their head above water, and they take their foot off the gas, and before they know it, they're back in a crisis. And people perform better when they're in a crisis. The number one skill you have to develop is you have to learn how to produce and be productive regardless of what your bank account says. Because it's a lot easier to get the person to move when their backs against the wall and they don't have nothing and they're terrified and they're scared and they're going to lose it all and they're freaked out. It's easier to get that person to move than it is to get that same person to move when they got $10,000 in the bank and now they're good. So hopefully that makes sense. Now you say, Trey, how do you get them to move? New writers. That's the answer. New writers. If Bob is bouncing between crisis and survival, the best thing I could do for Bob is go get Mary, and then Mary does better than Bob. And so now Mary is pushing Bob because now he has something to fight for again. That's it. If you could just get that in your mindset, that your goal is to take people from not knowing to knowing, make a habit of bringing people into the fold, make them system dependent, not people dependent, and don't stop doing it. My first job was at Jack in the Box. The first thing, I don't know, do y'all have Jack in the Box where y'all are? Okay. Like some people, like their first job, they would like never eat at that restaurant again. I still like Jack in the Box. I worked at a good one, but I do know some people that worked at KFC that'll never like eat KFC, just so y'all know. But anyway, um, yes, the tacos, exactly. So the first thing they did at Jack in the Box, and I don't know if this is normal Jack in the Box procedure, but my manager, her name was Maria. I was 17 years old. Maria takes me to the closet on the other side of the fryer. So you go around, the fryer's over here, you go around, there's a closet in there. And she opens it up, and a pile of hats and aprons fall out of the closet. And rubber soles for shoes that you can put on your shoes so they don't slip. They're in little packages, so you can that way you don't slip on the grease or whatever. So so these are all uniform items. They're aprons, hats, and she said, just so you know, we're already hiring your replacement. That's why we have this big closet of aprons and hats. That was my employee orientation. And I realized, and she said, so if anybody comes in the door and they ask for an application, you have to give them an application. And I'm like, dang, they're already trying to replace me. Because every business in the world is always recruiting. The businesses that grow are always recruiting. If the US military stopped recruiting, somebody would come get us. That's how you need to look at your business. You have to consistently be recruiting, consistently. Never stop doing it because your next recruit, and you really are one recruit away from a huge explosion in your business. Recruiting is the answer. Rita, that's what we like to call it. Recruiting is the answer. That'll solve every problem you have in your business. That'll solve your personal production problem. Recruiting, if you ain't right in business, go recruit somebody. And then all of a sudden you'll have a new fire in your belly to go do it. You'll have a new level of responsibility. You'll have a new reason to get out of bed. If you recruit your cousin and your cousin outsells you, you're motivated all of a sudden, right? If you're leading, you give up the right to be average and ordinary. Now all of a sudden you realize it's a privilege and it's a responsibility to lead people. So you'll show up more often. You'll show up for other people's success. Most people are this way. They'll show up for other people's success more than they'll show up for their own. That's why it's so hard for people to leave a job because they're all about working hard for their boss's success and showing up. So, so hopefully that makes sense. So recruiting is the answer. Um, that's pretty much all I got. And everything else, listen, here's what this is. This is a methodical process. Every correct step will lead to the next correct step. But the first step is you just got to consistently recruit. Now, most people want to get on these calls and they want to know about all the systems and all the listen, all that stuff will work itself out. You just have to believe that. It's like my son, they go to a Christian school. It's a smaller school. Um, they got somebody in charge of that school now that is really geeked up on expanding the school. So they're advertising, they're paying for kids to come, they're getting kids from other schools to play on the football team. Like they're doing all this stuff to expand the school. And my 14-year-old, he goes, Dad, I just don't agree with that because we should just focus on fixing what we got and then we could go get the people. I go, no, son, that's absolutely the wrong way to do it. If you go get the people, now you'll have the income to fix what you got. That's how it works in this business. If you instead of trying to make it all perfect, because it's not going to be perfect, and invest in the systems and make it all perfect so that the first day a bunch of people show up. It doesn't work that way. How about we go get some people, they sell some insurance, and then we can focus on getting things right. If you're in a place in this business where you feel overwhelmed, confused, not knowing what to do, can't keep it all together, it's all falling apart and collapsing around you, but more people are selling and you're selling too, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Just stay right there for like 6 more months and it'll work out. But where most people mess it up, and I watch it all the time, is it starts to get some momentum and then they squelch it because they want to get control over what's going on. The best way to do it is out of control. It's a lot easier to do this fast than it is to do it slow. It's a lot easier to fill up the reservoir and let the dam get some holes in it for you to plug along the way than it is for you to do constant inspections on the dam for the one day that there might be enough water in the reservoir that maybe one day it might flood. I'm trying to fill the reservoir up, see how much damage the dam can withstand, and then fix it as I go. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. If we want to have to join, what is the process to get them started? Talk to the person that recruited you, Marie, and they'll tell you how to get people contracted in their organization. We all have slightly different onboarding processes. But whatever your onboarding process is, it's an awesome one. And if you don't like that one, find out who recruited the person that recruited you and ask them what theirs is, because the answers are all here. Like it's already here. We're not doing 8 times more than our nearest competitor for no reason. It's about keeping the main thing, and it's super simple. So hopefully that helps. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully not everybody left. I appreciate you guys, and make it a good week. We'll talk to you again soon.